to Mending Threads. This is your safe place and stronghold for whole body wellness. We want you to know this morning that you are welcome to the Women's Resource Center Imani Faith Health Initiative. We have what we call Mind, Body, Spirit Transformation Series. And we surely are going to talk about some topics today. We're approaching a season where conflict is high, where pain and remembrance of things in the past tend to flow. Yet we are remembering the word that brings us to the center to say that we must be able to understand and love our relatives and those around us. Many times that's not the case. Many times we do not know what to do and we do not know how to handle it. But we have with us today our co-host, Dr. Cory Wilson. May I say Bishop Cory Wilson?
Amen.
From Christian Faith Missionary Baptist Church. And
Amen.
I do want you to know this is that we have a person, those of you who have watched previous series and discussions, now know that we have a pastor, a person who's well entrenched, doctrinated with the word, as I can say that, and psychological principles or beliefs, but looking at them in terms of how we can implement them in daily living. And so we want to talk today about forgiveness and breakthroughs. And we're always asking, how can we do this? So we have a person that's going to help us today. Welcome, welcome, Bishop Wilson, welcome.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone whenever you're going to see the show.
That's right.
And happy Thanksgiving.
That's right. That's right. Coming up. Happy thing. You're so right on target. You know, I'm moving so even so I will pass it off and say, you know, I do everyday Thanksgiving. Only thing I don't have is I really do everyday Thanksgiving. But I really love the people during the holidays, and I love what they call cornbread dressing.
Mm.
So that's what I do have during the holidays that I remember. As soon as I say holidays, everybody knows we got to have the cornbread dressing. Okay, then, but we're going to talk about dressing in a different way. So I thought we would first start with the need for breakthroughs. What is a breakthrough? And we talked about it in a previous series for those who have not seen it, for those who want to look at a fresh perspective. Let's just talk about the direction for a breakthrough. Where do we go? How do we get there to a breakthrough? We're going to do plain talk today.
I like it. I like it. Well, to get anywhere in life, one must plan. That's where it begins. It has to begin with the thought processes. You have to plan to have something in mind that you want to do or accomplish or change. You can't do anything without a real good strategic plan. And a lot of times in a breakthrough, a lot of times they fall through because we did not plan properly with all the necessary steps and engagements that you're going to have to go through, which is a process, which will, once you're going through the process and taking its necessary steps, will land you one day in your breakthrough, where you now look back at what you couldn't see past and how it made you feel like it was so unbearable, uh, impossible. All these things that, when you look at the challenge that go with the breakthrough, it brings a lot of defeat in thought. You stop wishing, you stop dreaming, and you never see yourself for that which you're hoping to ascertain. So I would say that the premise of a breakthrough is planning and thinking about it and seeing it before you get to it.
Hmm. And I guess maybe sometimes I'm dealing with a person, a situation now, just to speak about it. And I think when you're talking about difficulty, and so many times we're trying to move away from the difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we want to get away from the difficulty. So I thought maybe we would look at moving toward a breakthrough, like how could we handle that we're trying to get through, that we're getting away from, the difficulties.
Hmm. Well, that's a great point because you're describing what I was talking about. When we start down the road of whatever it's going to take to get us to the breakthrough, it's like, let's do it this way. Entering a race, okay, everyone has been to a track meet and seen people run a mile or 100 or 200 or the hurdles. Well, when you hear the gun go off for you to go, you now, no matter how much you've trained, you are going to begin to experience difficulty. And in that experience, that's going to determine A, if you finish the race, and B, how you place when you finish the race. And C, the if you finish means you might drop out of the race because of the difficulty. Difficulty in race, what? Your foot might start hurting, your shoestring might come loose, you might kind of roll your ankle, you might feel a tightness in your hamstring, you
Mm-hmm.
might feel overwhelmed because the person next to you looks like they're going to beat you and you know you trained as hard as you can. You're going to start having chest issues with your breath, all kind of stuff. You're going to start burning in you. You're going to feel hungry. And then the question is going to be to you, how important is you winning this race and staying in this race versus dealing with the challenges that's going to come while in the race?
Mm-hmm. So it's something, often it seems, that then you would have to what? Say to yourself? You'd have to do some types of self talk. You'd have to have, at the outset, when you said planning, you'd really have to have a belief that it could even happen.
Mhm.
And so, those two things, maybe we could just talk about and explore the different kinds of beliefs that's going to fit with this difficulty that they're
Mhm.
going to experience.
Mhm. And that's a great point because what really happens when one begins the race of the breakthrough to get to the finish line, it makes you question while in the race, starting to suffer ups and downs and trials and tribulations, excuse me, that goes with the race now. Okay. This is typical of being in a race. And here's what it's going to do, it's going to make you challenge why you even got in the race. And it's going to make you think about the things you either prepared for. So when you came across them, you know how to begin to think. And if your thinking, I hate to say this, is not healthy, period. You can be a nice person. You can be a successful person. You can be an educated person. You can be a black person. You can be a white person. You can be a tall person. You can be a short person. You can be a so called successful person or an unsuccessful person. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter your age. You will begin to ask yourself, am I really ready for what I am encountering? And it's going to make you ask the question, is the finish line, follow me here, is it worth what I'm going through right now? And right there, if you haven't prepared and planned to deal with the obstacles that go with your breakthrough, the pain you're going to experience before the breakthrough, on your way to the breakthrough, is going to make you possibly second guess if you even want to get to the breakthrough anymore based on the pain that can become very excruciating that you're going to feel prior to the breakthrough.
Hmm. So then, are you saying most times that if we really are moving toward it, it is how we accept the pain, or how we choose to face the pain?
Exactly. Both. How you accept it, because when it hits you, you're going to then wonder what to do. And we know psychology. When you're hit with anything as a human, the mind goes fight or flee, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that, you got to accept it and feel and know, hear this, that what you're feeling is not out of the ordinary for you trying to get a breakthrough. Keep in mind, you're trying to change the course of your life. You're trying to change the trajectory of how you think, how you feel to get to a desired place so everything can change. My point in this is that's not going to be easy. So when you start experiencing trials and tribulation that go with the race, the first thing you can't start to think is that I'm being punished. I have bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got a curse on me. The people don't like me. My mom don't like my dad, my husband, my wife, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my children,
Mm-hmm.
my friends, Caucasians, African Americans, Asians.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot allow when you experience difficulty to start to think that what you're facing is outside of the norm that goes with the race that you have entered into. Because if you start to think that your difficulties are out of the norm, you're not going to want to accept them.
Mm-hmm.
So you first must accept the associated difficulties that goes with trying to get to your breakthrough. Then, once you accept it, you got to have the right mindset to know how now to deal with the difficulty and not allow it to slow you down or to hinder you. Now, it might cause you to cry sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong while in a race taking a moment to gather yourself because of the pain that you didn't expect. There's nothing wrong with that in a moment. Have a quick moment, but you cannot let that moment go too long because it will start decreasing you still wanting to continue to get your breakthrough. I hope that made sense, Dr. Lewis.
Yes. While you were talking, a young lady had called, and I told her she could text to answer a question on Facebook. Um, but she wanted to know something. So here's the situation. So what would happen if a person, they just can't seem to get it through? They can't get a breakthrough. They can't stop. They keep trying and doing it, and they don't see that what they're doing is they're giving up or going too strong or giving up. So they're not balancing in terms of the mind, body, spirit. In terms of the connection, being in the present, being mindful, because then they would really what? If they were doing that and paying attention to their difficulties, they would see a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
They would know how they felt just before.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I'm wondering, and I'm getting ready to ask you the question. So do we have these little warnings? Is it something that we could pay attention to around these difficulties?
Well, one thing I can say by going through it myself, okay, as we go through and plan and start and enter the race and going through to get to the end, which is the finish line of your breakthrough, we don't know we think this way. Okay, this is not in our conscious mind, but it's in our subconscious mind. We subconsciously think that because what we're working on and what we've started to work on is so significant, we subconsciously think that no other dynamics, while we have decided to make this start, is going to happen while we're on this journey. We subconsciously think that because what happens? While you are doing what it takes, you're giving everything you have, then all of a sudden, other things that are out of your control in regards to your job, your family, your friendships, your relationships, your money, your car, your tire, your tree in the front yard, your plumbing, your electricity. What happens? They don't cease to need your attention. And what happens when you have started to accept, which is great, to move down the road of your breakthrough, all these other dynamics continue to happen. So, what happens as they strike, you turn your head and you begin to focus on these dynamics, and they take your attention off your breakthrough and what it needs from you. So these other dynamics are going to need energy from you along with your breakthrough. So when you put your breakthrough and the dynamics that it needs of you on hold to deal with these other things, you have lost track and you don't know it, and you're beginning to think that you're losing, but you're not. Things are happening that need your attention, but you have to learn to balance, know what they are, label them, and then you have to remind yourself, I cannot afford to give this outside dynamic that's going to bother me, trouble me. I cannot give it my undivided while I'm trying to give my breakthrough my undivided. You cannot give two things your full undivided attention.
See,
And
that's key. That's
go
key. You need to repeat that and explain that. That is so key, and that's true.
yeah,
Even
because
yourself, even, and I can testify, even yourself, you'll feel divided. You won't know which way to go. You got both of them appending on you, and so this is where values and other things come in play. Mm-hmm. Pace.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens now, the reason why it slows you down, I hate to say this, but we have to talk the truth. In those moments, you're getting hit now from all angles. Your breakthrough and its steps is hitting you because it costs you to keep making those steps because it's going to have ups and downs in it in and of itself. But then your relationship you're in, it starts to hit you. Your family that you're still connected with, and it starts to hit you. Maybe some other decisions you made 5 years ago, 2 years ago, they're coming back to hit you. All these things, then all of a sudden, I hate to say it, you're going to ask of your breakthrough to have pity on you. And let me say this, your breakthrough, I hate to say it, but it doesn't care about all these other things that are affecting you. Your breakthrough is saying, I need to be first. I need your undivided attention, and I don't care about what you're going through outside of what me and you are working on.
That's right.
And
Mm-hmm.
in that, you're going to be thinking that your breakthrough is going to give you a pacifier, a pat on the back, a attaboy or attagirl, and it's not. It's going to continue to ask of you what it needs for you to continue in that process. So you're going to be struggling on how much of you to give this, to give that, to give this, and to give that. When your breakthrough is supposed to be primary and priority. And in those dynamics, when you don't give it your undivided, it like a child is going to start crying, it's going to start yelling, it's going to start screaming, and then you're going to look at your breakthrough in this process and going to say, "Don't you understand? I'm just busy right now. I don't have time to put into you like I was." But the breakthrough don't have no understanding at all. I'm sorry. It has no emotions. It has no feelings. All it knows is it needs your time, your effort, and your energy 100% for it to actually manifest or happen, should I say.
And your time, energy, and all of that is what that transformation process is all about. It's just that when you're putting in your time and your energy and your focus and your work, you don't know that you'll have to do that over and over because each one is a building on process, and some people want it to fall right in line.
Right in line. Right in line. Which brings us to our main topic that go with breakthroughs today: forgiveness. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's put this in perspective. What I just explained,
Yes.
when these outside dynamics that's associated with other things and people that you're still connected with, when they arise and they bring hurt, heartache, and pain, follow me. You cannot deal with that too long. And in order to deal with heartache in a short period of time and not make it long term, I've learned the answer to uh, being able to deal with pain from other people or situations short term is forgiveness. That's the antidote to not dealing with what other people might have caused you too long. Why? In that, the longer you deal with the heartache and pain that has been caused you by others, the more you are now stepping away from your focus on the necessary things and steps that's needed of you constantly in your breakthrough. So you have to, as things come up and they are painful, you have to practice forgiveness because it's going to shorten your time and your emotional time that you're going to give to what has caused you pain. So the only way I've learned the antidote to allow it to be shorter is to forgive it. I promise you, because if you stick too long, if you think too long, if you go back over it too much, it'll never pass. And it's gonna step by step, little by little, become primary. And then your other things and goals and breakthroughs are gonna become secondary. But you're not cognizant of this.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer is to learn to forgive. So who and what you're going to forgive don't start to cause you to put too much energy and time in it that's not necessary because you don't have that time to take from your process and your steps that you got over here with your breakthrough. You ain't got much time to give from it because see, you can't give two things in two places at the same amount of velocity. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot. That's why the Bible say you cannot serve two masters. You either gonna love one and hate the other. I hate to say it, even when people think that they're playing. I'm going relations. Men think, oh, I'm playing. Well, some of them women that you're playing, somebody is getting the short end of the stick.
Right.
Only one. And then if you got more than one, she ain't even getting all of you or the best of you because you cannot give anything your best when you split yourself and you got to divide it and give it
Right.
in five different ways. You will never be 100% nowhere.
And when you do that, you as the giver get shortened too, because your experiences
That's right.
tend not to be as gratifying for you and tend not to fill you toward where you're going, toward your fullness of who you are as an individual. So when you're so divided like that, yes.
Precisely. Precisely. Because think about it. If I am with you or a certain situation, it requires my undivided. Why? It's not just what I'm going to be given to it, it's what it is going to be given to
To
me.
me, that's what I'm saying.
And if I'm not there with all of my attention, I'm going to miss some things it's trying to talk to me about.
Mhm.
I'm going to miss it so I can respond a certain way to help it while it helps me. Because what people don't understand, Dr. Lewis, in relations in life, is an exchange. Okay? There's give and take. In order for anything in this universe to operate and move with power, there must be an exchange, Dr. Lewis. That's why even a battery, when you look at a battery, there's two components to that one battery. That's a positive and a negative. The both, because of the exchange, creates energy and power to make something move. You
Right.
cannot afford to be a part of something thinking you just gonna give it and not be still attentive on what it is giving you. You got to
Mhm.
begin to maturate the two. I know we're going a lot of places right now, but
But
we're
it's
real.
all the same thread. Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. So
Mhm.
we have to understand. You have to be 100% in whatever it is you focused on, so you don't miss what you need to give or
Mhm.
what it needs you to see in relation to what it is given. Case in point, we're having a conversation right now. If you went away and started having another conversation for whatever reason, whatever I was saying, whatever things I was making and points I was making, when
Mhm.
you leave, you're going to stop there. So for the next 5 minutes of points, you're going to miss. So when you come back, you got 5 minutes of me trying to make a point. You would have been dead on and helping me with something maybe I missed. But now you'll never know because you had to step away for a moment
Mhm.
and miss paying attention to the entire conversation. So not only you getting from me, you also give to me in the
Right.
conversation and they build on each other.
Which can be a part of your breakthrough as well that you're missing out on. So it's so interesting. Life is just so interesting. But they say that when I say they theorists, there was this guy, Bobby Wright in California years ago, and he was like earlier with the Psychological Association and whatever, and he talked about forgiveness, and we were talking about all kinds of infractions in the world. I saw that the people were trying to right a wrong with the servicemen on Veterans Day that
Mm-hmm.
happened here in Memorial Park here in Houston many
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and how they actually arrested and killed the people because they were trying to fight for their rights right
Mm-hmm.
here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw that they were trying to right a wrong, which is a way of the family trying to say when they push for this that we forgive you, but you need to do something to own up to this. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yes, two people, partners, have to engage in that. But what happens to forgiveness? Let's talk about forgiveness when other people may not be moving to try to right a wrong. Forgiveness in your family, forgiveness in the world, forgiveness even of yourself.
Well,
What is. Mhm.
let me start with this because the scope of forgiveness is quite broad. I mean, it's extremely broad. So we're gonna bring the scope of forgiveness for what we need to hear about it today. We're gonna put it in this box. Let's step away from what forgiveness is going to do to the people that we forgive. What forgiveness is going to do for the people that we forgive. And then, based on us forgiving said people, let's step away from what we start to expect from said people that we have chosen to forgive. Let's move those aspects of forgiveness aside and let's focus on the main element of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not first for the people you forgive, it's for you.
Mhm.
Let's just start there and stop there. Now, we can go into how people are going to take your forgiveness, what they're going to do with your forgiveness. We can go there, but we're going
Mhm.
to miss the main element of forgiveness if we add that today. I'm not saying that that's not significant, but it's not as significant as us looking at forgiveness and only what it does for you. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, forgiveness. When Jesus Christ was on the cross at Calvary, in the book of Luke 23, it's in almost 3 or 4 of the Gospels, but in the book of Luke, And in chapter 23, I'm going to read one verse, and that's verse 34. It said, Then said Jesus, Father, as he looked up to heaven from being hung on the cross, forgive them. Who are the them? The people that plotted behind his back to lie on him and bring up bogus charges to
Mm-hmm.
say he had committed a sin of blasphemy and he was causing a ruckus in the people to bring a revolt against Rome. They brought those charges up. They lied on him and they convicted him of those charges. And the sentence for that was death by way of crucifixion. So follow me here. As these people lied on him, and it was his own people that he held close to his chest. How do you like that? So
Mm-hmm.
as he was nailed to the cross in pain, in excruciating pain, one of the last things he said before he died, he looked up to heaven. And this is what he said in verse 34 of chapter 23 in Luke. He says, Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, the people that lied on me, the people that have falsely charged me, have falsely accused me, and has falsely sentenced me. I'm still innocent. But Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots. Now, hear this, not for what that did for them, because them who he had to forgive, they were too evil to see the benefit or the value of the person they lied on
Mm-hmm.
forgiving them. Then they didn't think he was who he said he was anyway. So they didn't get no value out of him forgiving them. Then the
Mm-hmm.
value came for him because whatever he felt for the people that lied on him, he still had not completed his mission on earth that God sent him to complete. And that was to die on the cross for our sins. Had he stayed caught up emotionally and
Mm-hmm.
being lied on and being backstabbed, he would not have completed the task that he came to have earth to complete. So the way he was able to complete it, one of the ways was him what? Forgiving the people that actually nailed him and convicted him by crucifixion. And once he forgave them, Dr. Lewis, that's when he was able to give up the ghost, pass, but the task was completed, and he didn't allow who hurt him, who lied on him, to cause him
Mm-hmm.
to think on that too long. So my point in this, forgiveness is not first for who you forgive and what they might do with it or what they should do with it. It's for you so you don't lose focus and sight on whatever your priority task is in life. Because when you hurt, it causes you to focus on the hurt, who caused the hurt. And while you're focusing on all that, you're losing sight of what should be primary. I hope I did a good job at explaining the correlation between the two.
You did. So here is the New England Journal of Medicine. What they're saying is to help people get well with this. They were just giving a few little statements here, and I'm looking at this. Um, this one is somebody by the name of Luskin wrote it. He says, "Remember just what you said. If you really want to get better and you really want to feel well, make sure that you think and know that forgiveness is for you and no one else." And says forgiveness does not necessarily mean, this is the key word he's saying, reconciling with the person. Don't think of reconciling with the person who upsets you or who says those things, or that you are condoning the action or the behavior when you forgive them.
Mm,
In forgiveness, he says the key to wellness, and I guess to all parts of the wellness, is for you to seek peace of mind peace of understanding that comes from avoiding to look at blaming and spending your time blaming people after they have offended you,
Mm-hmm.
and taking those offenses less personally would be better off for you
Mm.
and your energy and your direction. So they went on to talk about how when you don't do that, uh, Bishop Wilson, that your energy is going to increase, your direction is going to be pronounced because you are not being weighed down
Mm-hmm.
by unknown or unneeded baggage.
Exactly.
Okay, so they did, yeah. So they said what you said. Hmm.
It sounds like me and them had a conversation prior
That's
to
right.
this.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that just means that if it comes from over there and over there, that you might be on the right track, right?
That's right. That's
That's what
right.
I say.
Look, listen, and we are not minimizing hurt and pain that others cause people. We're not. What we're saying, for you to get to your breakthrough, you have to take that hurt and pain and forgive it. Because if you don't, it's going to steer you away from the track that you were on to get to your breakthrough. And you're going to now be, it's like driving down the road. Okay. How are you going to ever get to your destination? We left Houston, Texas. We're going to Connecticut. We got some miles to travel. Okay. That is northeast in the corner of the United States of America. We have some miles to travel, some cities to go through, some states to go through. Okay. In that, if we stop every time something happens on the side of the road, you will never get to your destination. So, what happens in life, your destination, your breakthrough is in Connecticut. You left Houston with the right mind. But every time you saw a flashing light, every time you saw a sign, every time something happened, you stopped. And it's been 15 years, and you are battling with, why haven't I gotten my breakthrough? I'm doing everything, but you're missing the fact that you stopped in Beaumont. You've been in Beaumont for 15 years. You haven't even left Texas,
Right.
and you were going to Connecticut. Listen,
Now add to that, Pastor
come
Wilson.
on.
Add to that you're in Beaumont and you still looking back to what went on in Houston.
Exactly. Because
Still repeating.
that's it. Because here's the thing. When things happen that hurt you, hear me out. If something happened to you when you left Houston and it caused you to want to leave Houston to go to Connecticut, that bothered you so much, you decided to leave. Great decision, no problem. But when you got to Beaumont, something else happened that hurt you that had nothing to do with Houston. But the
Mm-hmm,
problem
mm-hmm.
is, when you stopped in Beaumont, you didn't just think about what happened in Beaumont. It made you reflect on what happened in Houston. Then all of a sudden, the Beaumont and the Houston hurt and pain caused you to get stuck in Beaumont about what happened there and in Houston. And from there, you have sat in Beaumont thinking about its pain and Houston pain for 15 years, trying to figure it out or trying to expect people to say they're sorry because you may have decided to forgive them, but then you didn't see much in return for your olive branch of forgiveness that you gave. So now you're getting offended and saying, how dare you take my forgiveness and do nothing in return? You spending too much time. See, now it goes back to what we said earlier. The forgiveness wasn't for them and what they were going to do in return for you forgiving them. It's for you. Because what you have done with using forgiveness, if you really do it, by now, instead of only being in Beaumont, you might be in North Carolina. You
Mm-hmm.
on your way. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, You have stopped and don't even realize it. You have to not allow the things that's going to happen along the way of your journey. You cannot allow those things to have you stop too long. Now, stopping for gas is good. Stopping to use the restroom,
Mhm.
that's good. Stopping to eat, that's good. Stopping to sleep, that's good. But that's not what you stop for. You're stopped because you're hurting and you're wanting the people that hurt you to bring some kind of resolve. And I got to tell you, my brothers and sisters, that might not ever happen. And it cannot get in the way of you forgiving them and getting back on the road to
That's
get
right.
to your destination.
And sometimes the expectation, we back to that word expectation. Sometimes the expectation of moving forward from Beaumont changes because you're perceiving the similarity of everything that you've gone through while you're in Beaumont.
Mm-hmm,
And then it changes and colors your expectation
mm-hmm,
while you are reviewing your roadmap.
mm-hmm,
And it
mm-hmm,
then changes the manner in which you decide or discern the route that you're going to travel,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which affects, yes.
Come on, and let me give you this to go with what you're saying, Dr. Lewis, because this is vital. You got to hear this. If you leave Texas, Houston, and go east, you're going to go through Louisiana, you're going to go through Mississippi, you're going to go through Alabama, then you're going to hit Florida. So you're going to go through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. 4 states. Now listen to this. If you left Houston and went west, the same distance it takes on I-10 when you go east that you could pass through 4 states, you'll still be in the same state if you went west because Houston to El Paso is the same distance between Houston and Florida.
That's
Put it
right.
like that. So it's also about what route you choose to take.
You're going to
Because
take when you travel.
you can travel 850 miles west and still be in Texas. But if you travel 850 miles east, you can beat and pass 4 states. Just put that in perspective.
So this forgiveness is, and it's something else I wanted to say about it, but I didn't want to take us too far off because it's some stuff tied up into that forgiveness. But so the thing about some people walk around in relationships and they haven't forgiven all the people and the things that have happened to them in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And they're carrying on conversations
Mm-hmm.
in their mind and interpreting and reinterpreting, and each time interpreting it in the manner that helps to solve the hurt,
Mm-hmm.
to help to soothe the hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when they do that, then they actually move back.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you back from your breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this forgiveness thing. So, for example, forgiveness, then the way you're describing it, and someone else said this too, is your ability to find peace when you're accepting no,
Mm-hmm.
because you're walking alone wanting yes
Mm-hmm.
to the things that you want, to the things that you view, to the
Mm-hmm.
things you whatever, but you now can find peace
Mm-hmm.
when you see that no is there at that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly knowing and believing that you can find yes for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not the other person in another
Correct.
way.
Correct. And I hate to say it.
I got that out of that other statement that you
That's okay. That's all right. You're doing great, Dr. Lewis. You're helping me do great. So we're doing great together. And hopefully the people that's listening to this and feeding on it is going to start doing great themselves because
yeah.
that's what happens. So in that dynamic, as you begin to go through and you do bring an offer of forgiveness, if you don't do it the right way, I want you to hear this. Your forgiveness towards people is going to come with a condition. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be predicated on the condition on what they do with your forgiveness. And then you're going to say, based on what they do with your forgiveness, that's when you're going to in turn get what you need from forgiving them. And you're going the wrong way with that. You cannot wait on the returns of your forgiveness to come from whom you have chosen to forgive, for you then to start to get peace and resolve for what you have offered unto those that has hurt you based on what they choose to do with what you thought was good. You cannot do and offer forgiveness for that reason. You're giving it for the wrong reason, and then you are robbing yourself.
Wow.
Forgiveness is really set to do for you, from you, not them, but you.
Right. Well, here, let me give this example then, and we're going to use it. So, remember the patient that I told you I had, and she married into a family, and she became upset because the mother and she had a child. And the mother-in-law began to buy things for the child and send baby pictures out to family members.
Mm-hmm.
And she was feeling violated because she hadn't given permission for them
Mm-hmm.
to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
plus, she didn't feel that the mother-in-law cared about her, etc. But her background was that she was in Texas. Let's just say, okay, she's in a Beaumont, but she's back there in Texas. And her mother did not spend a lot of time with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she really felt that she never got what she wanted. And her theme was, why is it that I have to do all the changing?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, so her husband has become somewhat estranged from his family, trying to accommodate her. And she showed or demonstrated some change in the initial part of the sessions. But when she began to change, it was a little difficult because she was having to make some changes. She was having to respond to circumstances. And I know we had a couple together like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when she had to start changing and things were improving and the mother-in-law was responding and being um, pleasant to her and enjoying, she began to be distrustful. She
Mm-hmm.
was distrusting that it was genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And she no longer wanted to deal with them and she wanted to stop therapy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when we talked a little bit, I said what you said. If you want to grow, you're going to have to go through some difficult patches.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to really begin to accept that you are going to have to do the changing
Mm-hmm.
so that you won't have to pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
don't see why I have to do it. But see, when
Mm.
you ask that question, you're still in Texas,
Exactly.
going to the East Coast. You might
Going
have made
to
it to Beaumont, but you're still back in Texas.
in Texas, coming to seek help from a service provider, asking them and begging them to help you get to Connecticut. And
Right,
when they give you the action steps, you say, ain't nowhere in the world I'm taking those steps, but yet I want to get to Connecticut. Well, listen, if you don't change your steps, you will never leave Texas, even though your mouth is asking me to help you and
right,
I'm providing you everything you need. But when it comes down to you doing things, you don't see the value as much as you want me with you to change other people and what they've done. You want to create these dynamics from them, not understanding you cannot control what somebody else say or what somebody else gonna do or predict it. And you don't want to waste too much time trying to predict if you do this, you should get that. You
right,
cannot do that
right.
because that involves somebody else. And that person is out of your control. So, what God is trying to teach man, stop trying to control anyone or anything outside of self.
Hmm. Right.
Everything you
Oh,
need
repeat that, Pastor. Repeat that in relationships, on the job,
on the
and
job, everything. When we march, you say, I want you to respect me because I'm black. Look, let's back up here. And I know this is going off a slightly different tandem, but it's correlated. When you were growing up, you went to the playground and they decided not to play with you. What happened? You couldn't make these children pick you. It was a sad thing. I'm with you. Maybe they didn't pick you because you was too tall or too short, too round or too thick. I don't know. But you cannot make people pick you. So it's something you had to learn to deal with. But you cannot be living life starting to try to devise schemes and plans to
Mhm.
predict how you want people
Yes,
to see you or
yes,
deal with you. You
yes,
are wasting time and
yes,
energy. And you, when you're going down that hole, you are not growing, you're not maturing,
yes.
and you are missing what you can do for your own maturity and your own growth.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
telling you. I've had to analyze this, Dr. Lewis, within myself and stop it.
Mhm. Oh, yes,
And
yes.
when I did, that's how I can sit here today.
That's right.
A fresher, healthier mind. And I can tell you, I've made it to a Connecticut in my life. And I'm not bragging.
Yes.
And I'm letting you know how profound it is. And along the way, everyone that did things to me, I had to forgive them. So much so that
Mhm.
when I got to Connecticut and they needed something from me and they wanted to come back
Yes.
around me, I treated them and entreated them as though they never hurt me. Because you know what? They might not even be cognizant of what they did to me, but I'm holding that for 20 and 30 and 50 years. And then the people might want to come back and have a new relationship. But before we can do that, I need them to bow down and point out what all they put me through for me to feel
Mhm.
comfortable to
Mhm.
engage with them again.
Mhm.
And I think I'm keeping them down when in essence, I'm keeping myself because I might get something today from them because they have changed. But I'll never know, Dr. Lewis.
That's right. That's
I'll
right.
never know.
Oh, wow. This has been powerful. I mean, it really has. And I hope our audience could hear some things, that you really said profoundly. That if you have to try to change someone else, then you might have to take a second look as to how that's going to affect your breakthrough. If you have to groove something so that you can be with it or around it or commit, then you better wait and stop, take a look. So you need to look at you as to how you're approaching it and also look at the environment to see whether or not it's a match here. Or if it's conflict, then you need to look at how it's moving you toward your breakthrough and where you're going. And how can you tell somebody's asking here? Because you it's not going to be smooth and easy. But the question is, are you learning something along the way and are you repeating the same thing over and over? If you're not repeating the same thing and you're doing it a different way, then you possibly could be moving in that way. But if you're repeating the same thing in the same manner over and over, then you're not listening and you're not at peace with yourself. You're doing something to shape outside of you to come back to you. You see? And so the breakthrough is what, Pastor Wilson?
Look, the breakthrough then fell through.
That
Okay.
fell, right?
It then fell through, and you'll never know why.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank you, Pastor Bishop Cory Wilson from Christian Faith Missionary Baptist Church, for being with us again this month. And we always learn something. We're going to continue a little bit. I think next time we don't know which part, but we're going to look at how you get there, like situations and fears and how all of that relates to
Mhm.
slowing us down and what we need, how we can get over. Okay.
Amen.
So I want to say renew beliefs, rebuild faith, and reconnect families and communities. For it is not the circumstances we meet, it is the manner in which we respond to the circumstances that determines our health, happiness, and success. So I want you to remember that. And I have one announcement. You won't know, but you'll know for the next one. We do have an event coming up. We have a faith health initiative, and you do want to go to our website and start signing up if you're interested. If you're a pastor or faith leader, we need you in the coming months. We're going to have something in February, and we'll have a retreat. It's called Caring for Self and Those We Serve. And we really need you as a pastor and faith leader on an organization who works with them to sign up and be there. Okay, because we need to make a difference in our community. We say that. But then all of the ills are out there still, and we have a church on every corner almost. But do we have any grocery stores? Do we have any cleaners? Do we have a hospital or a clinic? Do we have a care center where we can access it? Ask these questions. Have I done anything to make a difference? Okay, and bring peace of mind to myself and my community. See you same place, same time, same station, wrc-houston.com.